And now Bill Eikhoff for our leadership segment. Thank you.
Morning, everybody. How about another round of applause for our performers here today, huh? Well, I don't know if you happen to see the news this week. The head of the DEA is testifying before a Senate subcommittee on the sex parties that the drug cartels were providing for the DEA investigators. And when she was testifying, there was some outrage by the Senate, which is, these guys are the pillars of our culture, and they were wondering what the disciplinary action was taken against these agents. And it was anywhere from 1 to 10 days suspension. Now, I would just ask you this. If you had an employee in your organization that was doing this, would they be there the next day? So what we see today is the culture can be something like what we were exposed to here today, but the culture that I've been playing in the leadership realm is the culture that exists in an organization. And that culture will be there whether you plan for it or not. I can guarantee you if you don't plan for it, it's probably not going to be the culture that you want. Now, I have 3 mentors in my life. Dr. John Maxwell, Dr. Tom Mullins, who's the founding pastor at Christ Fellowship, who incidentally today is speaking at the United Nations for Pastors Against ISIS. And Jerry Anderson. Are you a doctor, Jerry? Okay, well, he's Dr. Jerry Anderson. So I have 3 mentors who are doctors. Now, as you may know, I'm a graduate of the University of Michigan. So what that means is that my 3 mentors who were born and raised in Ohio and are Ohio State fans, half of the year I can barely stand these guys. That's during basketball season and football season. But these guys are making a difference in the world. They bring value to people, they bring value to organizations, they bring value to countries. That's why I listen to them. Now, a little background about my relationship with Jerry. I used to do medical mission trips, and then I had some health issues, and my boss said, you're not going to do that anymore because you're the prime source of income for our family. So John Maxwell moved to town in about 2005. He's on staff at Christ Fellowship, and he said, I'd like to have an outreach to the business community. Not the Christian business community, just to the business community. I want to bring value to them. So because I enjoy favor over there, I was in charge of organizing this. And Pastor Mullins said, hey, I want to talk to this guy from Ohio. He just moved here, and he's doing something in Guatemala with the business community. So I called Jerry, and we went to lunch. And what he was telling me that was going on in Guatemala got my attention. And he said, why don't you come down with me and you can experience it yourself? So, I've been on mission trips in Latin America, down the Amazon and everything, so I know what to pack. And my boss was out of town. So I bought this jacket from one of these travel companies online, and it said that you can wear this in the bush, and then you can wear it at night to dinner. Sort of a formal jungle attire. And had my boss been home, she would have said, are you going to wear that? But that wouldn't, you ladies know that doesn't mean anything to us. Like, I'm wearing it. What am I, a human clothes hanger or something here? Yes, I'm going to wear this. So my first inclination that something might be different on this trip was that Jerry put me in first class. Now, it turns out that Jerry owns a large digital dish cable company, and they purchase, a smart businessman will take advantage of frequent flyer miles, so he pays for all of the equipment, all of the gas and everything with his American Express card, so he gave me an upgrade to first class. So then we check into the Camino Royale Hotel in Guatemala City. This is a Westin hotel. Now, I'm happy about it, but I'm not what I was planning, because usually I'm sleeping in a bunk bed in an unair-conditioned cabin, or I'm actually sleeping outside. So, I'm slow on the uptake, but the next morning, we walk over to the convention center. So here's Jerry. He's got an Armani suit on. And I don't know this, but he's one of the speakers for GT Continental. GT Continental is the largest bank in Latin America. And Jerry's organization, Lored, had been working with the managers of this bank, teaching values and principles. They were so impressed with it that they wanted to bring in their customers. And long story short, there were 1,800 businessmen in suit and tie at the Camino Real Convention Center. And Jerry puts me right smack on the front row in my formal jungle attire. So, now the first speaker is a guy by the name of Don Soderquist. You may not be familiar with the name, but he's the former COO of Walmart. He took Walmart, he replaced Sam Walton, took Walmart from $4 billion to $44 billion. And he was talking about transformational leadership. The next speaker is a guy by the name of Andy Wilson, who's the HR director for Walmart. I think Walmart's got like 750,000 employees. So he's speaking on transformational leadership. And then Jerry's batting cleanup when he's talking about transformational leadership. So the afternoon, they had the same program again, only for about 2,000 college students, talking about values and principles. So I'm impressed because this isn't what I was expecting. And the next, so we get back to the room that night. And I said, what are we doing tomorrow, Jerry? He says, we're going to hang out. So, you know, I put on my formal jungle attire again. And first thing we do is we go to a meeting like this. And Jerry asked me to say a couple of words. So then from there, we go to meet the Supreme Court Justice of Guatemala in my jungle attire. Then we had lunch with the General of the Army. And then we wound up with the president of, was it Gomez University? Gomez University, which is the largest university in Guatemala. And they're all intimately connected with what Lored is doing down there. Now, Lored means the net in Spanish. The United States, it's called Global Priority Solutions. So it was an epiphany for me going down there. You know, I'm in my early 50s at the time, and you start thinking about, well, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? You know, my kids are educated, my practice is on automatic pilot, and I guess I could work on my golf game, but you know, I'd like to do something where somebody might remember me after I was gone. So I'm thinking, well, maybe God's calling me to go down to Mexico and take teeth out. And I'm thinking, what's my legacy? I got a lot of toothless Mexicans down there. Then I started thinking, man, Jerry's working with the top people, the top influencers in a country. And what I was seeing was that a lot of times we try to approach the citizens and try to teach them ethics or values. But if their leaders are not exhibiting these cultural values, they just get cynical. And let me ask you this. Are you happy with the way this country's going? And this is not political now. This is, you can just look at what's going on out there. I've got 2 grandchildren. I worry about the world they're going to grow up in. The world I grew up in, there was accountability if I stepped out of line. If I messed up at school, it's going to be worse when I got home. The culture today, parents going to question what the teacher's saying about their kid. My kid would never do this. There is just a coarsening of our culture. We see it in every aspect of it, and you kind of wonder, where's it going to end up? So when I ran into Jerry, I'm seeing somebody that's taking a stand. And let me ask you a question. Who's typically, if you were on Jeopardy, and so the question was, who's the wisest man that ever lived? What would the answer be for that? Anybody? Pardon? Work with me here. Solomon. I think people would say, Solomon's been around for 2,500 years. People usually talk about a man of wisdom. Well, that's the fountainhead of these values and principles. A value and a principle is something that stands the test of time. Now, one of the laws that we teach from for the Maxwell is the law of solid ground. Law of solid ground says that trust is the foundation of all leadership. Now, that is a law that stands the test of time. Is there ever a time when you wouldn't tell the truth? Until today. Because today, the end justifies the means. We see the Senate Majority Leader outright lying about a presidential candidate, and then when he's questioned after the election, he says, well, he's not the president, is he? The end justifies the means. What kind of a message are we sending to our people? So when I was exposed to Jerry and the principles that he's teaching and the impact it's having all around the world, I wanted to get involved with that. Now, one of the premises of the Leadership Business Council is to not only expose you to speakers, but to expose you to leadership principles and values that you can bring into your business. Now, Patrick Lencioni wrote a book. Patrick Lencioni is a psychologist and a thought leader on culture. His book is called The Advantage. Subtitle is Why Organizational Health Trumps Everything Else in Business. Now, do you think what's existing with the DEA is a healthy organization or a sick organization? So when we talk about culture, I love this definition, and I know I'm repeating myself. Character is what you do when nobody's watching. Culture is what your people do when you're not watching. So Jerry is going to be speaking to us today about his experiences, not in Guatemala, but what's going on in Northeast Ohio with business people. And I'm really excited to have him here today. So Jerry, I guess I'm going to hand off to Michael first, and Michael will do the introduction.
Thank you, Bill.